I'm going to tell you something a lot of spiritual teachers won't touch because it's considered taboo and mostly misunderstood, misused, and abused. Stay until the end because we're doing two things. First, proving that cannabis can reveal your divine nature, direct recognition, not metaphor. Second, showing you exactly how to use it as a sacrament to access that recognition yourself. Clear warning right now. This is a tool, not a magic pill. What I'm describing requires real inner work. Cannabis opens doors, but you walk through them. Rely on it as a crutch, and you'll create dependency instead of liberation. What I'm offering is a map, a protocol. Proof that when used correctly, cannabis strips away the filters hiding what you actually are. And what you are, what you've always been, is infinite consciousness temporarily wearing the costume of a separate self. Sounds absurd. Good. Stay with me. By the end, you'll have something you can verify tonight if you choose. Not belief, direct experience. Take a breath. Get centered. Let's begin. Cannabis has been called everything from devil's weed to miracle plant. What it actually is, what it's always been when used sacredly, is a revealer. The divinity hidden under layers of conditioning, identity, and the relentless noise of the thinking mind gets revealed. The reason it works is precise, neurologically verifiable, experientially undeniable when you know what you're looking for. The mechanism: your brain has a network called the default mode network, the DMN. This network creates your sense of self, your identity, the narrator in your head saying, I am this body, this history, this separate person moving through time and space, the voice constructing and maintaining the illusion of separation, the belief that I am here and everything else is out there. When you ingest THC, the primary psychoactive compound in cannabis, it binds to cannabinoid receptors throughout your brain, especially in regions connected to the DMN. What happens? The network quiets. The narrator loses volume. Boundaries that normally feel solid, the line between me and not me, start to dissolve. The neurochemistry is elegant. THC mimics a compound your body already produces called anandamide. The name comes from the Sanskrit word ananda, bliss. Your brain naturally creates bliss molecules. Cannabis amplifies that system. When cannabinoids flood CB1 receptors in your hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and amygdala, they disrupt the normal filtering process. The brain stops simplifying reality into neat categories. The walls between subject and object start to blur. What remains when that narrator quiets? Pure awareness, the witness, the consciousness that's been here all along, watching everything, hidden by your identification with thought. And in that space, something becomes obvious. Something always true but hidden. You are not the thinker. You are what's aware of the thinker. You are the space in which all experience arises, including the experience of being a separate self. Cannabis offers this first revelation, the witness. And once you've touched it, even once, you can't fully unsee it. You might contract back into identification with the thinking mind. Habits run deep, but there's a knowing underneath now. A recognition whispering, this separate self is a story, not the whole truth. It goes further. When the DMN quiets and separation dissolves, what people report is shockingly consistent across cultures and centuries. Connection. Lived reality, not poetic metaphor. The boundary between self and world becomes porous. You look at a tree and you don't see a separate object. You see the same life force animating you, animating it. You feel the pattern, the underlying unity. Neuroscience backs this up. Cannabis increases connectivity between brain regions that don't normally communicate. It breaks down the walls. Suddenly, your brain processes reality in a more integrated way. The filters simplifying experience into me versus everything else relax. And what's underneath? The raw fact of interconnection, of non-separation, of one consciousness appearing as many forms. Mystics have been pointing to this for millennia. Cannabis makes it experientially undeniable. Recognition. You see through the illusion of separation because the brain activity maintaining that illusion temporarily shuts down. What you're left with, I am not separate. I am this, all of this. The awareness looking through every pair of eyes. The presence humming through everything. Godhood means recognizing what you've always been beneath the costume of individuality, not becoming some supernatural being. This recognition, this dissolution of boundaries and revelation of underlying unity has been cultivated and refined in sacred contexts for thousands of years. The most direct, unambiguous use of cannabis as a tool for divine recognition comes from Rastafarian practice. Understanding how they use it, why they use it, gives you the template for using it yourself. In Rastafarianism, cannabis, ganja, is considered holy, the tree of life mentioned in Revelation, literal sacrament on par with the bread and wine of Christian communion. Where Christian communion symbolizes connection to the divine, Rastafarian use of ganja directly reveals it, dissolves the illusion of separation and recognizes what they call I and I consciousness. I and I is not you and me. The recognition that the I speaking through you is the same I speaking through me. We're one consciousness appearing as two forms, not separate individuals occasionally connecting. Ganja, used in sacred context, makes this obvious. The practice is structured. Rastafarians gather for reasoning sessions, communal circles where ganja is smoked, often through a chalice, a water pipe symbolizing purification, while chanting, praying, discussing scripture, and sitting in silence. The purpose is communion. Communion with Jah, God, and communion with each other as expressions of that same source. What happens in these sessions? The usual boundaries dissolve. The sense of me versus you fades. The thinking mind quiets. What's left is presence, unity. The direct feeling that we are all waves in the same ocean. Different shapes, one substance. During the session you feel this, you know this, undeniable. The deepening meditation, opening the heart, making scripture come alive as direct experience instead of dead words. Ganja creates the opening. The practice, the chanting, the prayer, the contemplation stabilizes it, grounds it, turns the glimpse into something more lasting. Cannabis as catalyst, not crutch. Used with intention, in sacred space, with practices that anchor the recognition. The Rastafarian framework makes something else clear. Using cannabis sacredly means respecting it, treating it as medicine, not recreation. Smoking to escape your life, to numb out, to avoid what you're feeling, misuse. What they call Babylon's poison, the profane use that traps you instead of freeing you. But when you use it to commune, to recognize, to dissolve the ego's grip and see what's underneath, medicine. Cannabis doing what it's always been capable of. The recognition they're pointing to, I and I, is the same recognition every non-dual tradition points to. Different language, same truth. You are not a separate self. You are the infinite, temporarily localized. God pretending to be human. Consciousness exploring itself through the lens of form. Cannabis makes that recognition undeniable by removing what hides it. Before we go further, pause. Does this resonate? Does it challenge something you've believed? Drop a comment, and if you're finding value, hit the like button. It helps this reach people who need to hear it. There's a deeper dimension to what cannabis reveals. Once you recognize that you're not a separate self, once you touch the witness, the I and I, the underlying unity, other things become possible. Things that sound impossible until you experience them. You start perceiving layers of reality you couldn't access before. Dimensions always there, but normally filtered out. The reason, consciousness itself is multidimensional. You are not confined to this physical plane. Energy structures, subtle dimensions, realms of experience exist outside ordinary waking perception. Cannabis disrupts the filtering process and makes them accessible. Let me be concrete. You have a physical body, obvious. You also have an energy body, an energetic structure underlying and interpenetrating the physical. This has been mapped in yogic traditions for thousands of years. While you don't need to study ancient texts to work with it, understanding the basic structure helps you recognize what cannabis reveals. The energy body has centers, points where energy concentrates and radiates. In yogic traditions originating from India, these centers are called chakras. 7 primary centers run along the spine, from the base to the crown of the head. Each one governs different aspects of consciousness and bodily function. The lower centers relate to survival, sexuality, personal power. The heart center governs connection, compassion, the dissolution of self-other boundaries. The throat governs expression and truth. The center between the eyebrows, sometimes called the third eye, governs perception, insight, the ability to see beyond surface appearances. The crown, at the top of the head, is where individual consciousness touches universal consciousness, where the drop recognizes itself as ocean. Cannabis activates these centers, especially the heart, the third eye, and the crown. People report overwhelming love, seeing patterns they've never noticed before, or experiencing moments where the boundary between self and cosmos dissolves entirely. Cannabis stimulates energy flow through these centers, opening doors that are normally closed. Another piece, at the base of the spine there's a dormant energy. In yogic traditions, this is called kundalini, coiled energy, like a sleeping serpent. When this energy awakens and rises up through the energy centers, it becomes one of the most powerful forces for transformation that exists. It can radically shift consciousness, burn through old patterns, and catalyze states of realization that permanently alter how you experience reality. Cannabis can activate kundalini, sometimes gently, sometimes suddenly. People report feeling energy moving up their spine or heat concentrating at the base of their skull or pressure between the eyebrows. They're feeling the energy body activate. The subtle dimension becoming perceptible, not imagination. If your system isn't prepared, if there's blockage, unresolved trauma, energetic congestion, that rising energy can cause problems. Panic, overwhelm, psychic disturbance. Like trying to run high voltage through a wire that's corroded. The wire burns out. Cannabis can be blissful for one person and terrifying for another. Same substance, different systems, different levels of preparation. Respect comes in here. You're working with forces that shape consciousness itself. Recklessness means those forces teach you through suffering. Intentionality, creating the right container, means cannabis becomes a doorway to dimensions most people never touch. When these energy centers open and perception expands beyond normal boundaries, people report experiences that sound mystical but follow consistent patterns. Contact with presences, entities, beings that seem to exist independent of your imagination. This isn't unique to cannabis. Every entheogenic tradition, from ayahuasca ceremonies to psilocybin journeys, reports similar phenomena. But cannabis offers a gentler, more accessible entry point. Where DMT might catapult you into encounter with entities so alien you can barely comprehend them, cannabis introduces you more gradually. What people encounter varies. Some report guides, benevolent presences offering wisdom, comfort, direction. These might appear as archetypal figures, wise elders, divine feminine forms, ancestral spirits. They might appear as geometric patterns of light that communicate telepathically. Or they might be felt rather than seen. A presence in the room, a knowing that you're not alone, a sense of being held by something vast and loving. Others report encounters with what feel like nature spirits, plant consciousness, earth energies, the intelligence inherent in the living world suddenly perceptible. You might feel the tree in your backyard as a being with its own awareness. You might sense the mycelial network beneath the soil as a kind of planetary nervous system. You might experience the wind as breath, the rain as blessing, the sun as the face of divinity looking directly at you. Some people encounter what they can only describe as their higher self, a version of themselves that exists beyond time, beyond this particular incarnation, a presence that knows everything you've been, everything you will be, everything you truly are beneath the temporary mask of personality. And this presence speaks, offers guidance, shows you the bigger picture, reminds you of what you forgot when you incarnated into form. The question is always, are these entities real, or are they projections of your own mind? And the answer is yes. In non-dual awareness, there is no meaningful distinction between out there and in here. Everything is arising in consciousness. So whether you're encountering an autonomous entity existing on some subtle plane, or you're encountering a deep aspect of your own psyche that's personifying itself to communicate with you, either way you're encountering consciousness. And consciousness is what you are. The communication matters more than the metaphysics. What are these presences teaching you? Are they expanding your awareness or contracting it? Are they leading you toward love, compassion, clarity, freedom? Or are they feeding fear, confusion, grandiosity, dependency? Benevolent presences expand you. They remind you of your divinity while keeping you humble. They show you unity while honoring your uniqueness. They offer wisdom but never demand obedience. They guide but never control. Malevolent or trickster presences contract you. They might inflate your ego, telling you you're special, chosen, superior. They might feed paranoia, making you feel persecuted or under attack. They might create dependency, making you feel like you need them to access truth, egregores or aspects of your own shadow that have taken on apparent autonomy. The protection is always the same. Stay grounded in awareness. If a presence is expanding your heart and clarifying your mind, listen. If a presence is creating fear or inflating your sense of specialness, recognize it as a distraction. Come back to your breath. Come back to the witness. Come back to the simple recognition of awareness itself. Cannabis can facilitate these encounters, but it doesn't guarantee benevolence. Intention matters. The state of your psyche matters. Approach the experience with humility, with genuine curiosity, with reverence for the mystery, and you're much more likely to encounter the helpful guides. And when you do encounter something that teaches you, comforts you, shows you dimensions of reality you didn't know existed, treat it with respect, thank it, learn from it, but don't worship it. Because ultimately, whatever you're encountering is another wave in the same ocean you are. Another face of the one consciousness looking at itself. Let's talk about karma. Because this is where cannabis as a tool becomes either liberation or another trap. Karma, stripped of all mystical language, is simple. The residue your actions leave on your being. Every action, every thought, every pattern you energize leaves an imprint. Momentum, not moral judgment. What you do repeatedly becomes what you are. The grooves deepen. Those grooves guide you, often unconsciously, towards certain experiences and away from others. You carry stored patterns, impressions from everything you've done, thought, and felt. Some ripen right now, creating the circumstances of your life. You're making fresh deposits every moment with every choice. The patterns are deep. They run beneath conscious awareness. They shape your reality more than you realize. Cannabis can make you aware of these patterns. It loosens the grooves enough that you see them clearly. You realize, oh, I've been running this program. This fear, this craving, this defensiveness. A pattern I learned, not me, and I can interrupt it. In that seeing, there's a chance to choose differently, to stop feeding the pattern, to let it dissolve. If you use cannabis to escape the pattern instead of facing it, you deepen the groove. The mechanism is subtle. You feel uncomfortable. You smoke. You feel better. The discomfort is still there, just numbed. And because it's numbed, you don't address it. It festers. The pattern strengthens. Intention determines outcome. Are you using cannabis to hide or to reveal, to numb or to awaken? Cannabis amplifies what's there. If you're full of unresolved pain, cannabis amplifies that too. You feel it more intensely. Without preparation to sit with it, to breathe through it, to let it move without identifying with it, you spiral into paranoia or anxiety. Cannabis shows you what's there, not creates it. And showing is actually medicine, even when uncomfortable. You can't heal what you can't see. Cannabis makes the invisible visible, the unconscious conscious. Meet that with awareness instead of resistance. The patterns start to dissolve on their own. The razor's edge. Cannabis can free you from patterns or deepen them. The difference is how you use it. Use it to face what arises, to witness the fear or the craving without becoming it. You're training liberation. Use it to avoid what arises. You're training bondage. Same substance, opposite outcomes. Traditions using cannabis sacredly understand this. They combine it with practice, meditation, breathwork, prayer, contemplation. Cannabis creates the opening. Practice ensures what arises gets integrated instead of just experienced and forgotten. You can smoke cannabis and feel like God for an hour. Touch infinite awareness, recognize the witness, see through the illusion of separation, but spend the rest of your week as a scattered, reactive mess. You've missed the point. The revelation was real. Without living from it, it becomes just another experience, another memory. The glimpse matters, but stabilization is what changes your life. And there's another pitfall: over-reliance. When cannabis becomes your primary access point to clarity, peace, or presence, you've created a sophisticated form of dependency. You're outsourcing your spiritual practice to a substance. And while cannabis can be a powerful teacher, if it becomes a crutch, you're not walking the path, you're being carried. And the moment the substance is unavailable, you collapse. True liberation means the recognition is always accessible, with or without cannabis, with or without any external support. You've stabilized as awareness to such a degree that circumstances can't shake you. Cannabis can help you discover that awareness, but relying on it to maintain that awareness means the work isn't complete. Some people use cannabis and it reveals deep trauma they've been avoiding: childhood wounds, abuse, abandonment, shame. The cannabis brings it to the surface, which is medicine. But if there's no container to process it, no therapist to help integrate it, no somatic practice to release it from the body, the trauma just gets re-traumatizing. You feel it intensely, freak out, and then shove it back down even deeper than before. Cannabis is revealing the shadow, which is necessary for healing. But revelation without integration creates more suffering. You need the tools to work with what surfaces: therapy, somatic experiencing, EMDR, breathwork, Whatever modality helps you process and release stored pain, cannabis can show you where the wound is. Healing the wound requires different work. So what goes wrong? Why do some people use cannabis and encounter bliss, while others encounter terror? Most common issue: cannabis amplifies the mind. Whatever's underneath the surface gets magnified. If you're carrying anxiety, cannabis can make it overwhelming. If you're carrying unprocessed grief, it surfaces. If there's paranoia lurking beneath your normal functioning, cannabis brings it front and center. Without preparation to meet that with awareness, it feels like a bad trip. Cannabis shows you what you've been avoiding, not attacking you. And showing is valuable information. It tells you where the work is, what needs to be addressed, what's been ignored. Most people aren't taught to work with difficult states. They're taught to suppress them, numb them, avoid them. When cannabis brings them to the surface, the instinct is to resist, to fight. Resistance creates suffering. The emotion itself is just energy moving through the body. Resistance turns it into a nightmare. Learn to sit with what arises, to breathe, to stay present, to let the energy move without trying to control it. Even the most intense experience becomes workable. You realize it's happening in you, not to you. You're the space that holds it, the awareness remaining unchanged no matter what passes through. The shift from identifying with the content to recognizing yourself as the space is the shift from suffering to freedom. Cannabis can train that shift if you let it. Every time something difficult arises and you choose to witness it instead of resist it, you're strengthening the muscle of awareness. You're proving to yourself that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your fears. You are what's aware of all of it. If you're not ready for that level of practice, if your system is too fragile or unstable, cannabis can destabilize you. Not a moral failing. Some people need to build a foundation first. Therapy, meditation, somatic work. Something creating enough stability to hold what cannabis reveals. Rushing into deep work with a fragile system causes harm, not healing. Sacramental use of cannabis was traditionally done with guidance. Elders who knew the territory, teachers who could help navigate. You were taught how to prepare, how to set intention, how to sit with what arises, how to integrate afterward. Cannabis was respected as powerful medicine, not treated casually. In modern culture, most of this is lost. People smoke recreationally, without guidance, without intention. Then they wonder why it causes anxiety or paranoia. Context determines outcome, not the substance itself. If you're going to use cannabis sacredly, treat it sacredly. Create a container, set space, have clear intention. If you encounter difficulty, recognize it as the medicine working. The discomfort shows you where you're contracted, where you're holding, where you're stuck. Information, not punishment. Work with it consciously. It becomes the path to freedom. What are you noticing as you hear this? What's your relationship to cannabis? Has it revealed something, or has it been escape? Think about that. And if you're getting something from this teaching, make sure you're subscribed. What's coming goes even deeper. The recognition of divinity, the you are God realization that cannabis can reveal, is the ego dissolving entirely, not inflating to cosmic proportions. What remains is the recognition that you were never the separate self to begin with. When the thinking mind quiets and the boundaries dissolve, there's no you experiencing godhood. Just godhood experiencing itself. Consciousness recognizing its own nature. The awareness that's been here all along, watching everything, untouched by any of it. Every mystical tradition points to this. Different words, same recognition. In ancient Vedic teachings, you find the phrase Tattvam Asi, you are that. You are that. Not you contain a piece of God or you're connected to God. There's nothing else. The divine is all there is, and you're what the divine looks like from this particular angle. In Rastafarian language, I and I, the recognition that the divine I is speaking through every form, one being appearing as many, not separate beings occasionally connecting. In modern language, the recognition that consciousness is all there is. Forms arise within it, but they never separate from it. Like waves in the ocean, different shapes, same water. You're a wave. Once you recognize you're made of the same substance as every other wave and the ocean itself, the whole sense of separation collapses. Cannabis catalyzes that recognition by shutting down the brain activity, maintaining the illusion of separation. The default mode network quiets. The filters drop. What's underneath? Pure presence, boundless awareness, the unchanging witness always here, mistaken for a small, separate self. Psychologist Abraham Maslow studied what he called peak experiences. Moments of expanded awareness where people temporarily transcend their ordinary sense of self and touch something vast, unified, eternal. He found these experiences were more common than most people think. They happen spontaneously during meditation, in nature, during art or music, in moments of crisis or love. Cannabis can reliably induce peak experiences in people who approach it with the right set and setting. During these moments, people report remarkably consistent realizations. Time becomes irrelevant. The past and future collapse into an eternal now. The boundary between self and other dissolves. Everything is recognized as interconnected, interdependent, expressions of one source. And there's an overwhelming sense of rightness, of coming home, of remembering what you've always known but forgot. There are moments of clarity where the filters drop and you see more accurately. The normal state where you feel separate, isolated, moving through linear time toward inevitable death is the hallucination, the illusion the brain creates to simplify an overwhelmingly complex reality. Peak experiences show you the truth. You are eternal. You are infinite. You are the awareness in which all phenomena arise. Birth and death are just events within you, not things that happen to you. And the love you feel during these moments, the overwhelming sense that everything is exactly as it should be, is the natural state of consciousness when it's not contracted by fear. Proof this is real and not just drug-induced delusion. The recognition is stable. Even after the cannabis wears off, there's a knowing that remains. You might contract back into identification with the thinking mind, but you can't fully believe the story anymore. You've seen through it. You know, at least intellectually, that the separate self is a construction. That knowing changes everything. Over time, with practice, the recognition deepens. No longer just an idea, it becomes lived experience. You start operating from awareness instead of from ego. Choices become clearer. Reactivity decreases, presence increases, and slowly, or sometimes suddenly, the truth becomes more real than the illusion. Cannabis gives you a glimpse of what's already true, and that glimpse becomes the North Star guiding your practice. You're not seeking something far away anymore. You're stabilizing what you've already touched. So let's get practical. Everything up to this point has been explanation, theory, framework. What you actually want is proof, something you can verify yourself. If you choose to work with cannabis as sacrament, and I'm not telling you to, but if you choose to, this is the protocol. The setup maximizing the chance of revelation and minimizing the chance of chaos. First, preparation. This matters more than you think. Don't smoke when you're stressed, angry, or emotionally unstable. Don't smoke in chaotic environments or around people who drain you. The state you're in before you ingest sets the trajectory for where you'll go. Already anxious, cannabis amplifies that. Grounded and open, it amplifies that. Choose a time when you have no obligations, several hours of uninterrupted space. Turn off your phone. Create an environment that feels safe, clean, quiet. Maybe light a candle or incense if that helps set the tone. You're creating a container, a space sacred enough to hold what might arise. Set a clear intention. Not "I want to get high," but something like "I want to see clearly. I want to recognize what's true. I'm willing to face whatever arises." That intention acts like a rudder. When the mind starts to wander or fear arises, you come back to it. Dosage and strain matter more than most people realize. If you're new to using cannabis sacredly, start with a low dose. You can always take more. You can't take less once it's in your system. The goal is to quiet the thinking mind enough that awareness becomes obvious, not to get obliterated. Sometimes less is more. Strain makes a difference. Cannabis comes in 3 basic types: sativa, indica, and hybrids. Each produces different effects. Sativa strains tend to be more cerebral, energizing, expansive. They're associated with creativity, vision, mental clarity. If you're looking to access expanded states of awareness, to see patterns you've never noticed, to have insights about the nature of reality, sativas can facilitate that. They open the third eye center, enhance perception, make the mind more fluid and associative. But they can also amplify anxiety if your system is prone to that. Indica strains are more body-focused, grounding, introspective. They're associated with relaxation, physical awareness, emotional release. If you're looking to drop into the heart, to feel unity with everything, to release stored tension and just be present, indicas facilitate that. They open the heart center, create a sense of safety and peace, anchor you in the present moment, but they can also make you sleepy or mentally foggy if you take too much. Hybrids blend both. Many modern strains are hybrids designed to balance the cerebral clarity of sativa with the grounded presence of indica. Strains like Blue Dream are popular for spiritual work because they offer expanded awareness without losing connection to the body. The terpenes, aromatic compounds in cannabis, also matter. Myrcene creates sedation and relaxation, good for dropping into deep meditation. Limonene is uplifting and mood-enhancing, good for opening the heart. Pinene enhances mental clarity and memory, good for maintaining lucidity during the experience. Linalool is calming and anxiety-reducing, good for people prone to paranoia. You don't need to become a cannabis expert, but knowing the basics helps you choose intelligently. If you're prone to anxiety, avoid high THC sativas and look for strains with CBD, which balances THC's intensity. If you struggle to get out of your head and into your body, choose indica-dominant strains with myrcene. If you want visionary experiences, sativa-dominant strains with pinene and limonene can facilitate that. Start low, especially with edibles, which hit differently than smoking. With edibles, start with 5 to 10 mg of THC and wait at least 2 hours before considering more. With smoking or vaping, take 1 or 2 small hits, wait 15 to 20 minutes, see how you feel, and proceed from there. You're looking for the threshold where perception shifts, but you still have full agency, where the mind quiets, but you're still present. Once you've ingested, don't distract yourself. This is not the time to turn on a movie or scroll social media. Sit, breathe, be present. You can put on instrumental music or mantras if that helps, but nothing with lyrics pulling your attention into narrative. You want to stay with direct experience, not get lost in someone else's story. As the effects come on, notice what happens. The thinking mind starts to slow. Thoughts still arise, but there's more space between them. Sensations become more vivid. Time dilates. The sense of boundary between you and everything else starts to soften. Watch for the witness, the awareness observing all of this. Thoughts arise. You're aware of them. Sensations arise. You're aware of them. Emotions arise. You're aware of them. But what's doing the observing? Can you find it? Can you locate the observer? Try this. Ask yourself, who is aware right now? Don't answer with thought. Just look. Turn attention back on itself. Where is the awareness coming from? What is its nature? Do this sincerely. Something will become obvious. You can't find a separate observer, just observing. No subject and object, just presence. And that presence has no edges, no beginning, no end. Not created by the body or the brain. It's what the body and brain appear in. I am this awareness, not the thoughts or sensations arising within it. The first stable glimpse, the first piece of proof. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Even when you come down, even when you contract back into ordinary thinking, you'll remember, oh, there's something here that doesn't change. Something that was watching all of it. The unchanging awareness, the witness, recognizing it is the beginning of freedom. It goes deeper. The witness is still dualistic. There's still a sense of I am here, watching that. The full recognition is when even that collapses, when there's no watcher and watched, just watching. Consciousness experiencing itself. Cannabis can take you there. Not always, not reliably, but sometimes the boundaries dissolve so completely that there's no you left. Just presence, just this, pure being with no one being it. In that state, the question, am I God, becomes absurd because there's no separate I to ask it. Only the divine experiencing itself through this temporary form. Touch that. Even for a moment, you'll have your proof. Not intellectual proof, not something you can explain to someone else, but direct, undeniable first-person verification that what you are is not the limited self you've been pretending to be. How you know it's real and not just delusion, the recognition changes you. Subtle, undeniable ways, not necessarily dramatic ones. You become less reactive, more present. Less identified with the story of me and more established in simple awareness. That shift, it happens from seeing what's true. After the experience, integration is everything. This is where most people fail. They have a profound experience, feel amazing, and then just go back to their ordinary life without doing the work to anchor what they saw. Integration means taking the insights from the experience and embodying them. Making them real in your daily life, translating the glimpse into stable realization. First step, write immediately. As soon as you're able to hold a pen or type coherently, write down everything you experienced, what you saw, what you felt, what became obvious, what questions arose, what presences you encountered, what insights landed. Don't wait until the next day. Memory of these states fades fast. Write while it's fresh. Journaling serves multiple purposes. It helps you process what happened. It gives you a record to return to when you doubt what you experienced. It allows you to track patterns across multiple experiences. And the act of putting insight into words helps clarify and deepen understanding. But writing alone isn't enough. You need to bring the recognition into your body, into your actions, into your relationships. If you recognize the witness, the unchanging awareness behind all experience, practice resting as the witness during ordinary moments. When you're washing dishes, ask what's aware of the sensation of water on hands. When you're driving, ask what's aware of the road, the car, the movement. When you're in conversation, ask what's aware of the words, the emotions, the space between us. Keep pointing attention back to awareness itself. That practice stabilizes the glimpse. It trains you to operate from presence instead of from thought. Over time, the witness becomes more obvious than the content. Awareness becomes your primary identity instead of the temporary forms arising within it. If you had moments of non-separation, recognizing everything as one consciousness, look for that in daily life. When you see another person, can you feel the same life force in them that's in you? When you see an animal, a tree, the sky, can you recognize it as another expression of the same source? Practice seeing unity beneath apparent diversity. You're learning to see what's always been true, but normally hidden by habitual ways of looking. The separation is the habit. The unity is the reality. If difficult emotions or memories surfaced during the experience, you need to work with them somatically. Cannabis might have revealed the wound, but healing requires different tools. Find a therapist trained in trauma work. Practice breath work to release stored tension from the body. Do somatic experiencing or EMDR. Move, dance, shake. Let the body complete the processes that got frozen. Emotional release during a cannabis experience is medicine, but only if it leads to healing. If you just feel intense pain and then suppress it again, you've re-traumatized yourself. The work is to feel it fully, let it move, and release it from the tissues where it's been stored. If you encountered entities or presences, reflect on what they taught you. Were they expanding your heart and clarifying your mind? Then integrate their wisdom. Were they feeding fear or grandiosity? Then recognize them as distractions and let them go. Some people find it helpful to create a regular practice around integration. Maybe you sit with cannabis once a month as a sacrament, and then you spend the following week integrating through meditation, journaling, therapy, whatever practices support you. The ratio might be 1 hour of experience to many hours of integration work. Others find that after 1 or 2 profound experiences, they don't need to use cannabis again. The recognition landed so completely that now they're just living from it. Cannabis showed them the door they walked through, and now they're established on the other side. Both approaches are valid. The key is that cannabis serves awakening, not the other way around. You're not living to get high. You're using cannabis strategically to accelerate recognition, and then you're doing the work to make that recognition permanent. Understand this. Cannabis is a catalyst on the path, not the path itself. A tool that can accelerate recognition, but only if the ground is prepared and the integration is solid. Some people will use it once and see everything they need to see. The recognition lands so completely that they don't need to use it again. Cannabis did its job, showed them the truth. Now they live from it. Other people will use it regularly as part of their practice, a weekly or monthly sacrament helping them reconnect to what's true, especially when they've gotten lost in the noise of ordinary life. Valid too, as long as it doesn't become a crutch. And some people will use it, have a powerful experience, and then do nothing with it. They'll get high, feel amazing, and then go right back to their old patterns. For them, cannabis becomes just another escape, another way to avoid the real work of transformation. The difference between those outcomes is you, your intention, your commitment, your willingness to do the hard, unglamorous work of sitting with what arises, integrating what you learn, and living from the recognition even when it's inconvenient. Cannabis can show you that you're God. You still have to live like it. And living like it is the real work. What separates glimpse from realization, experience from embodiment, high from awakening. Rely on cannabis and you'll stay dependent. Recognition only available when you're under the influence. And that's a more sophisticated prison, not freedom. Use cannabis to show you what's possible, then do the practice to make it stable. You'll eventually reach a point where you don't need it anymore. Recognition is always available. Presence is always accessible. You've remembered what you are, and you don't forget anymore. The goal: use cannabis as a ladder to climb higher. Then kick the ladder away once you've reached stable ground. Not needing cannabis anymore, but having used it to get where you need it to go. Let me address the final objection. If this is real, Why isn't everyone who smokes cannabis enlightened? Revelation and realization are different things. You can have a profound experience and then spend the rest of your life completely identified with your patterns. The glimpse doesn't automatically undo a lifetime of conditioning. It just shows you that undoing is possible. Most people who use cannabis use it recreationally. No intention, no preparation, no integration. They're looking for relaxation or euphoria or escape, not divine recognition. And they get what they're looking for. Cannabis meets you where you are. Approach it casually. It gives you a casual experience. Approach it sacredly. It opens sacred doors. Intention and context determine outcome. The same substance used two different ways produces two entirely different results. There's also readiness. Some people are not ready to see through the illusion of separation. Their identity is too fragile. Their ego is too defended. If cannabis starts to dissolve those boundaries, they panic. They resist. Resistance creates suffering. They have what they call a bad trip. They never go near cannabis again. Cannabis didn't fail. They weren't ready. And some people need more time, more preparation, more life experience before they're ready to face the truth of what they are. Then there are people who have the experience, recognize the truth, and then choose not to live from it. Living from the recognition of non-separation requires letting go of everything you've built your identity on, your stories, your grievances, your specialness, your sense of being a separate doer in control of your life. Most people aren't willing to let that go, even when they've seen through it. The comfort of the familiar is stronger than the pull of truth. So no, not everyone who smokes cannabis becomes enlightened. Most don't. But for those who are ready, who approach it with sincerity and intention, who do the work of integration and practice, cannabis can be a profound ally. A doorway to recognition that might otherwise take decades of meditation to reach. A real doorway. And for some people, the doorway that finally opens. Bottom line, cannabis reveals your God by temporarily disabling the brain mechanisms maintaining the illusion of separation. The default mode network quiets. The filters drop. What's underneath is what's always been there. Infinite awareness, appearing as this temporary form. The proof is experiential. You can't get it from me. You have to verify it yourself. The protocol is simple. Set sacred space, have clear intention, choose your strain and dosage intelligently, ingest mindfully, watch for the witness, rest in awareness, and integrate what arises. Do that sincerely. Something will shift. You'll recognize, even if just for a moment, that you are not the small, separate self you've been pretending to be. You're the boundless consciousness that's been here all along, playing the game of limitation. Once you've seen that, your job is to stabilize it. Practice resting as awareness until it becomes more natural than identification with thought. Live from presence instead of from ego. Embody the recognition instead of just remembering it. Cannabis can show you the destination. You still have to walk there yourself. The walking, the practice, the integration, the daily choosing of awareness over automaticity makes the difference between a nice experience and a transformed life. If you're going to do this, do it right. Treat cannabis with respect. Prepare properly. Set clear intention. Choose your strain wisely. Meet what arises with awareness instead of resistance. Turn the glimpse into knowing, the knowing into being, the being into your natural state. Cannabis reveals your God by stripping away what's false so you can see what you've always been, not making you into something you're not. The map is in your hands. The verification is yours to discover. The transformation is yours to embody. Stop waiting. Go see for yourself what you actually are. The God you're looking for is already looking through your eyes.